if I'm gonna rig up my FX30 this much, why don't I just get an FX6? I've gotten that question more than I would have expected, so I'm gonna talk about it. And in all honesty, I would love an FX6. The only thing is it's $8,000 compared to the $3,000 that this camera costs. Obviously, the FX6 and other similar cinema cameras have a lot more features built in than, you know, smaller cameras like this do. But you're still gonna have to spend more to rig up those cameras anyway, even if you have to get more stuff to rig up something like this. So first, let's do a quick comparison of the features of the FX30 and the FX6. Or we could even go to the FX3 and FX6 because they have the same sensor, and internally they're basically the same camera. So features that the FX6 has that the FX3 and the FX30 don't include currently shutter angle, but they are getting it later this year, next month actually. Probably one of the biggest ones is internal NDs, and it has an internal variable electronic ND, which is kind of, everyone says is amazing. So that would be great, so then you don't have to use filters in a matte box. You could just not even run a matte box if all you need is ND. If you want to add other filters, then sure, that's fine. But having that internal ND, and it can go from like, I think it's 2 to 7 or 3 to 7 stops or something like that, which maybe sometimes that 2 or 3 stops minimum might be too much, and maybe 7 might not be quite enough, but you know, they're the times where you're just gonna have to use filters on your lens anyway. But if you didn't have that, then there'd be even more times that you'd have to use external filters. But the biggest reason why I would prefer to have an FX6 over something like this is it's just built to be rigged, whereas this, you have to do a lot of stuff and it's just not the best. The buttons are in the wrong spot when you build it like this. Now, to be fair, I have built this one vertically because I do have a vertical project coming up in a couple days. But besides that, even rigging this horizontally, it would be so much better to have a box camera than, you know, a mirrorless style, like photo style body almost, just because of how it's built. It's not built to be built up as much as a proper cinema camera is. The FX6 and other cinema cameras also have other features like SDI. This only has HDMI. The FX6 actually has an SDI and an HDMI, so you could have 2 outputs going to, maybe one going to your transmitter, one going to your monitor. And then even bigger cameras like the FX9 actually have 2 SDI outs, so you could do basically the same thing. Whereas with this setup here, I have HDMI going out of the FX30 into my monitor. This is the Portkeys HS8. I recently did a video on that. Go check that out if you want. And then on the back of that, I have the Holyland Pyro S. Also recently did a video about that. And then I have SDI going from the monitor to the transmitter, which works fine. It's just, it is limited by the fact that the monitor itself is taking that HDMI signal and then outputting a 3G SDI signal. Whereas if there were maybe 12G SDI ports on the camera, I could take a higher signal straight into the transmitter. Not a big deal for most of what I do, but it just would be a bit nicer. And speaking of those ports, like look where they are. They're all right here. I have USB in here and HDMI. If I had audio, I'd plug a mic in there as well. And it's just in the way vertically when you run like this, because you know, if you're gonna have top handle, it's in the way of your hand. And then if you're gonna run it normally horizontally, they stick out to the left side. So if you're going to have a handle on the left side, they're also in the way. Whereas on most box cameras like the FX6, most of the I/O is actually on the back. So you're not really gonna have handles on the back. The only thing that could potentially be in the way is a battery, like if you have a V-mount battery on the back like this. But even then, they're kind of designed to be able to handle that anyway. So usually they're around the sides on the back. So you can usually fit a battery just fine. Also, rigging monitors on bigger cameras, like cinema cameras, is a lot easier than rigging monitors on a mirrorless style camera, just because of, again, the form factor, the shape of the body, the size of the body even. And that also means that the weight distribution is a lot easier to make good, that was a terrible sentence, on box style cameras because they are just a box. Also, like I mentioned, this is currently rigged vertically, and a box camera like the FX6, or I've actually shot vertically on the Red Komodo X, and it's a lot easier to shoot vertically on a box because you can just rotate it 90 degrees and it's still the same shape. Basically, all rotating it does will turn the sensor and, you know, the buttons and screens and stuff, wherever that is. Whereas on this, everything is just out of whack when it's vertical, and companies are starting to build stuff more for vertical, but not that much. I thought the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II would have more vertical features, but all they did was make the UI rotate when you rotate the camera. Thought they were going to add mounting points or something. As much as those cameras are marketed more towards, you know, that vertical content creator, a cinema camera is kind of better for shooting vertical stuff anyway, unless you have a super small rig. And that sort of brings me to why having a smaller camera rigged up like this can kind of be better in some ways. And that is, you can rig it up like this. I've got small rig VB99 Pro V-mount battery. I've got these Condor Blue rosette handles, which are really nice. I just got them. Link in description if you want to check any Condor Blue stuff out, or small rig stuff actually. There's links to both of those in there. But I can add all this stuff to this camera. But if for some reason I need a much smaller rig, or I just want to carry a camera around and just walk around with just a camera and a lens, I can take it all off and it's just like a normal camera that you would take photos with. Or if you need to like rig it into a very small space or up out of reach or something like that, and you don't want to put, you know, your whole rig like this out, you know, in danger basically. I actually did one shot for a spec ad that I did a while ago where I took my FX30, put it on top of a C-stand, and put the C-stand up just behind a ceiling fan. Here's that shot. It didn't actually end up making it in because we had the fan on too fast. But I wouldn't have been able to do that with a full rig like this. With just the small camera and lens, it worked fine. But to get to the main reason why I don't have an FX6 is it's just so much more expensive, and I didn't get all of this at once. Also, I didn't necessarily pay for all of this. Companies are nice and send me some stuff sometimes. But even if I did buy all this, and the amount that I have spent on camera gear, it's been over time. It's not just one big purchase of a cinema camera. So yes, I could probably sell this whole thing and then get an FX6, but then what? I'm stuck with just an FX6 body and that's it. So that's the main reason why I don't have a cinema camera like that, as much as I want one. And also, speaking of the FX6 in particular, I'm kind of hoping that they bring out a Mark II soon-ish and I'll get that rather than the current FX6, because it does have a couple of drawbacks that are a bit annoying. Audio jack being the big one. But yeah, what do you think of the vertical rig? I like having the rosette handles on here, and then because these are actually adjustable, I'm gonna take off the focus wheel there. I can actually have both hands this way. Now I can put this behind the monitor, that's fine. But I like having two handles like this, and the fact that they're the same and they're also adjustable, because these are the QR handles. I'm gonna talk about this in other videos, but I really like having a setup like this. But if Sony or anyone is listening and wants to let me borrow an FX6, I would happily accept it. So all that being said, yes, something like this can be better than a box camera in some ways, but I still would much rather have a box camera, especially for what I do. Like, I don't really need a mirrorless style cinema camera. I would rather have a, you know, medium level cinema camera, if that makes sense. Like, I don't need an RA Alexa, but an FX6 would be pretty good. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. This is just a rambly video. Anyway, that's kind of a rig update, I guess. I don't know, and why I don't have an FX6. If anyone wants to send me an FX6, let me know. Go watch another video. Go click on some affiliate links. Condor Blue, small rig, music bed. Do all the other things, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.